feel like AI has slightly dominated our lexicon of late. Meanwhile, let's get back to talking space, Ed, because missions are always physically taxing for astronauts, but those months-long trips away from friends, from family, they can also take a really heavy emotional and mental toll on one's well-being. That's why HTC Vive and its partners has sent the first virtual reality headset for mental health usage to the International Space Station. The headset is currently being used by Danish astronaut Andreas Mogensen. Here to tell us a little bit more about bridging the gap between the science and mental health is Dan O'Brien, who's HTC Vive President of the Americas. And Dan, what is complex, what is difficult about sending such equipment to space?
Well, it's actually very challenging. One, we use gravity for pretty much all of our technology on the ground. And in space, we actually had to account for zero gravity and actually have a point of reference so that we don't have things like drifting away inside of a space station. So just the technological achievement to actually send something into space like this was pretty amazing. But it's also, again, just like you said, on the mental health side, the rigors of space is actually pretty isolating, very distracting, and it's very challenging for the astronauts. They're dealing with stress in minutes, of what we deal with kind of in hours or weeks or years. So it's a very high stress environment. So we wanted to actually put this product up there so that we could measure how we can make it a more efficient and proactive environment for our astronauts.
Dan, I've spent many more hours this year using virtual mixed augmented reality with my feet firmly planted on the ground on Earth. I'm sure you have as well.
Yes.
Are there differences from the experience the astronauts go through of a virtual reality environment in zero gravity? What have they relayed to you?
I think you can look at, they're doing a lot of video experiences as opposed to something that you might be just walking around and experiencing. But you can see here, they actually do a lot of on-ground training. So here, the commander, in that video was actually doing all of the spacewalk experiences and training before he went into that environment. So what we do on Earth is the ability to actually do a lot of training, simulation with our healthcare applications, a lot of high-stress training that we can use across a lot of verticals, not just for NASA, but for first responders, healthcare, defense, and education. So we actually have a lot of ways that we can use it on Earth that we can't use it in the space station, but we can actually bring those astronauts a lot of experiences that will just bring them a lot of calm and serene that they can use inside of that environment.
Dan, what's HTC getting out of sending a headset up to zero gravity environments?
Well, I think there's a lot for us to always learn. We're an innovation company that delves into hardware and software, and we have been delivering new technology for the industry for many years. We were the first company to bring you a 4G LTE device or a touchscreen device with our smartphones, and then we were the first company to bring you things like a full room scale walking around virtual environment. So for us, it's always about being the innovation leader in every aspect, and what we're learning now in space and being able to actually have an object in space. It teaches us a lot about different environments that we can actually bring a virtual scenario to, but it's also about that training and simulation. We can actually do a lot in that space station with our headset and our technology.
Leader doesn't always mean winner, and when we think of VR, AR, certainly for this year, one goes to Meta, then one goes to at least the announcement coming from Apple.
Sure.
Do you feel that market share will ultimately be yours by being a leader too?
Well, it's always good to be first, right? But at the same time, we are the reference design for so many of those other companies. They usually follow us about a year behind us, whether it comes to wireless connectivity and technology. But even looking at Apple, like their headset that they're going to announce is already behind what is actually coming out. When we look at Meta, they have a completely different business model. They're looking at the user as the product. They're looking at, selling ads in the metaverse. We're a company that actually stands for technology, innovation, humanity. So what we're actually trying to accomplish with our brand and our technology is actually bringing products and solutions that will actually benefit humanity and our users, whether they're consumers or commercial users.
Cutting in the face of Meta. We thank you for that, Dan O'Brien, really talking about the marketing landscape and indeed more broadly the landscape for AR, VR. He's of course HTC Vive President of the Americas. And that does it for this edition of Bloomberg Technology. There's been a lot about space, Ed, as always.
50% in orbit, 50% on Earth. There's a lot to recap. Thank you to everyone that's listening to the podcast, wherever you're getting your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and we post them every day on all of the Bloomberg platforms. Really, really appreciate the feedback on that one. From San Francisco and out in New York City, here on planet Earth, this is Bloomberg Technology.